Recording King is a pretty solid budget line of guitars, and I only say budget because you can find some that are still $8, $9, $1,000. And I don't know about you, but $1,000 is still, well, it's not chump change. On the other hand, you can also find some for less than $200. Now, Recording King was acquired by the Music Link Corporation back in 2007, and they've been producing the Recording King name since then. But I picked up a Recording King recently. It's actually this little guy here. Now, my lens ain't wide enough for you to see the whole thing all at once, but it is a Recording King RO06, and it's a triple O model. And actually, I found out because I sent the serial number to a Recording King rep, and they emailed me back. I found out that this month, May, is actually its 14th birthday. So it was produced back in May of 2010, which I thought was kind of cool and kind of prompted me to make this video. So that's what we're going to do. We're kind of just going to check out the history of Recording King and do a little sound test of this guitar at the end of the video. So if you're into that kind of thing, consider hitting the like button and also consider subscribing. Now, like I said, as of today, the Recording King name is under the umbrella of the Music Link Corporation. They're a company that kind of, from what I gather, they're kind of like the middlemen between suppliers or maybe they're the supplier and then they supply stores, like Guitar Centers. I'm not saying specifically Guitar Center, but online stores, things like that. There's not a lot of information out there on them, and that's kind of like all I could kind of decipher. They acquired the Recording King name. They also sell or run like Guardian. Guardian is a brand of like gig bags and hard shell cases. They also have a line of mandolins called the Lore. And they've got some other stuff too. I'll link their website down below just in case you want to check them out. It doesn't look like you can buy anything directly from them, but nonetheless, I'll still leave it down below if you want to check that out. Now, like I said, they acquired it back in 2007, but that was not the first time that the Recording King name was put on a headstock. That happened way back even before the 30s in 1929 when Gibson actually they would build the Recording King line of guitars or instruments. It actually started with banjos, and they would send them to Montgomery Ward's. Now, Montgomery Ward's was a mail-to-order business. It was huge back then. There's still a company nowadays. It's like an online store, but it's not nearly as big as it used to be. And that's what Gibson used to do. They had these, they built, budget-friendly instruments, and they sent them to be basically a house brand for Montgomery Ward. Now, their partnership actually started back in 1929 when Gibson built and supplied the mail-to-order Magnet, a line of banjos with the Recording King name. They also had Studio Kings as well. Not really sure the difference between the two or why they had two different names. I couldn't find anything on that, but nonetheless, that's what they started with, was a line of banjos. Now, the Recording King and Studio King banjos that Gibson supplied Wards with back then, actually, in terms of quality, came very close to Gibson's own Master Tone. And I feel like back then in the 30s, even if you're buying a budget guitar or a budget instrument, I feel like the craftsmanship, it was better quality back then. Even if you were getting something more budget friendly, right? Something cheaper, I still feel like they were solid instruments. Because I don't think that they sent everything over to like China and overseas to get built back then, right? Maybe they did. I'm not really up on that kind of history and stuff, but I don't think that happened for a while, right? So I still think that they probably cut corners, I'm sure, but I feel like a budget quality back then was still better than a budget quality nowadays. Now, like I said, those first banjos that Gibson built for Wards, the quality was very close to Gibson's own Master Tone, except for one, in my opinion, very vital piece of hardware, and that was the adjustable truss rod. Well, actually, this article says just truss rod in general, implying that banjos or the banjos and guitars that Gibson built for Ward's didn't have a truss rod at all. Now, I couldn't find an exact answer to that. I don't know if they just ripped the truss rod out completely or if they mean that it wasn't an adjustable truss rod. Let me know down in the comments if you know, but I just don't think that you could build a guitar or a stringed instrument without a truss rod, right? I mean, I feel like the neck would just break with all that tension and everything. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I'm going to assume that they just mean that there was no adjustable truss rod, which that would still kind of be a pain in the ass, right? I guess the way that you can adjust non-adjustable truss rods, or the way that you would adjust the neck, is like by heating it up and kind of, I don't know. I would not want to do that. I mean, that just sounds like a pain in the ass. Anyway, along with the banjos, guitars came into the catalog very quickly, not even a year later. The flat top Recording King number 807 made its premiere that year, being an imitation of the Gibson Nick Lucas model. This was one of the first budget quality instruments that were of professional quality. And the reason for that is because Gibson literally took their Nick Lucas flat top guitar, just took the truss rod out, painted it black instead of having a sunburst color like the original Gibson had, and just selling it for like $48 instead of their $125, which they were going to sell the professional version for. And if you didn't know, $125 back in 1930 was like $2,000 today. And even the budget-friendly version of $48, that's still around $900 today. And I don't know about you, but $900 is not chump change to me. That's for damn sure. But not even a year later, in 1931, the economy was being just ravished by bank failures, and it was the Great Depression, right? Everything was going in the shitter. And because of this, the Gibson-built line of instruments for Ward's dropped down to just a single banjo and a single guitar. Hell, by January of 1932, Gibson had let go like a quarter of their staff and their workers, and it honestly looked like Gibson was just going to be bankrupt. And then all of a sudden, in about 1934, mid-year or so, the number of Gibson-made instruments shot up dramatically. And we still don't know to this day who it was, but it's because of somebody at Gibson who actually like reignited the flame for and kind of saved the lifeline for Montgomery Ward's supply and the production of all those guitars that went to Ward's. And they did this because they started basing the models off of the much more inexpensive Kalamazoo models. In the 1934 to 35 fall-winter catalog for Ward's, there were 5 more instruments. There were 2 more banjos, 2 more flat-top guitars, and also a line of mandolins. And every one of these instruments fell between only like $10 and $25. By 1935, Gibson had shipped over like 1,000 instruments to 9 different locations for Montgomery Ward's. And then in spring of 1936, archtop guitars were added to the lineup, as well as another line of mandolin. Following this was a Gibson-made electric archtop guitar. Also in 1939, lap steels were introduced to the lineup as well. So honestly, hats off to that employee, that mystery employee, whoever, saved Gibson, because if that didn't happen, we may have not, seen the amazing Gibson guitars of the 50s and 60s, and even the ones that you see today, which granted, that ugly-ass SG would not have been invented, which that would have been fine with me. Just saying. It's an ugly guitar. Throughout the decade, Gibson had also done a bunch of signature models for Montgomery Ward's, such as the Carson Robinson flat top in 1933, which was based on the Kalamazoo KG11 model. Ray Whitley's model began shipping in 1938 with a jumbo-style flat-top body, X-bracing, and rosewood back and sides. Gibson also built both banjos and guitars under the name of performer Charles McNeil and lap steels with a Roy Smeck endorsement. But then, all of a sudden, in 1941, the partnership between Gibson and Ward's just kind of ended. Now, it's not confirmed, but it is speculated that when Gibson was sold to CMI, which is Chicago Musical Instruments, they just never renewed doing the off-brand type of guitars. And then we didn't see it again until, like I said, 2007, when the Music Link Corporation acquired that name. I have no idea if they're better or worse than back then, but I still think that even nowadays, the Recording King guitars nowadays, I think they're kind of just a hidden gem. They're a solid guitar that you can find for, sub $500. Obviously, you can get some that are $900, $1,000, if not even more. Solid bodies, all that. But you can get a pretty solid Recording King, or a pretty good, I should say, Recording King guitar for, I got mine for $270. Granted, it was off of Craigslist, but nonetheless, you can find them out there for pretty cheap, and they're decent guitars. No, they're not a high-quality Gibson, or they're not a Martin, but I'd say for what you pay for, they're damn good guitars. All right, everybody, well, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's totally different than my other content, and if you're here because, or if you're subscribed, if you're one of my subscribers, you're probably here for like Linux and tech content, and I'm sorry, we're just kind of pivoting away from that stuff. If you don't stick around for it, I totally understand. Why would you if it's not, a subject matter that you don't care about? Totally get it. But if you would like, you could stick around and still watch these awesome videos, and we can have a good time, If you're new here, I want to appreciate you. I know I've seen, a handful of new subscribers. Hello, welcome. This is a channel where we have no idea what the hell we're doing. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, yet you enjoy guitars, music, that kind of thing, consider subscribing. Also, if you like the video, you could hit the like button too. You could do that. Or not. Doesn't matter. Maybe save it for the next video. Whatever. Alright, that's it. I'm going to send you off with some of my really bad guitar playing. We will see you in the next one.